it's really frustrating. I think you can see it with me on the court. Sometimes I don't feel it's me, just being out there. I used to have really fun smiling on court, but it's just been so frustrating, maybe for a lot of reasons, not just basketball.
After tonight's loss versus the Charlotte Hornets in Dallas, the Mavericks have moved to a record of 36-38 and have gone 5-9 since the All-Star break. And 2 of those 5 wins were against the San Antonio Spurs, who we all know is no playing contender, no playoff contender. They're trying to get a first #1 overall pick. They're an easy win for everybody. And that 5-9 record since the All-Star break is only better than 2 teams, better than the Portland Trail Blazers and the Detroit Pistons. And with this loss versus the Hornets, the Mavericks are now out of the play-in race and have fell to the 11th seed. This is absolute embarrassment on top of embarrassment on top of embarrassment. And obviously this stuff is going to change throughout the season. There's still 2 weeks left of basketball. Most likely the Mavericks will make the play-in, but the fact that it went to this point, it is just insane. And after this loss, I'm going to be honest, this loss really got me to my breaking point with this Dallas Mavericks team. Now, before I get into the advanced statistics, the just flat out eye test and everything, and the future of the Mavericks as a whole, please go and subscribe. A large portion of y'all are not subscribed to the channel. It really does help a ton. If y'all just subscribed, of course if y'all enjoyed the video. If not, I respect that. But if y'all enjoyed the video, please subscribe and let's get on to the video. So with this Mavericks team, I'm going to be honest, ever since the Kyrie Irving trade, they've been kind of injured. Kyrie and Luka haven't played a ton of basketball with each other. Other players on the team have been hurt. But I've continued to give them the benefit of the doubt with those injuries and everything. But this has crossed the line at this point. The Mavericks were healthy this game. And not even just this game. There's been other games where they've been healthy and still losing. But I'm like, I'll wait a little bit. I don't want to hop on the bandwagon of hating and it's just like their 3rd game with each other or something. But it's about 2 weeks away from the postseason. The team has played with each other a decent amount. They play against the Charlotte Hornets, who are trying to get a good draft pick at this point with LaMelo Ball out for the year, and they lost to them. Luka was playing, Kyrie was playing, Christian Wood was playing. Tim Hardaway Jr. was really the only key piece that was out. But if you want to say Tim Hardaway Jr. would have changed everything, go right ahead. But the fact that they still lost to the Charlotte Hornets is just so depressing and embarrassing for this team. And it's games like this with Luka with the MVP race. Why is Luka not in the MVP race even though he's averaging 30-something points per game? It's games like this is why he's not in the MVP race. Yes, he'll put up those crazy stats, but he's not winning as much as Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, even Jason Tatum earlier on in the season when he was in MVP race. Like, this man, Luka, is incredible, an incredible talent, generational talent. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer, first ballot. But Luka just can't win games like the other top dogs can. And it's for that reason why he's not in the MVP race and hasn't been like towards the very end stretch of the season for his whole career. And going on to the actual team of the Mavericks, if you watch them play, oh my goodness, this team is the absolute definition of living by the 3 or dying by the 3. And if they're losing or dying by the 3, oh my gosh, they're gonna die by the 3. In this game versus the Hornets, I believe they shot around 30 or 40 threes in this game. They only shot 25% from the 3-point range. Like, that is disgusting. The fact that they shot that many and shot that percentage. At one point, they were shooting 19%. I think that was in the 3rd quarter before they kind of rallied back. Because in this game, they were down like 20 plus to the Hornets until they really kicked it into gear offensively. Defensively, they really weren't doing nothing. They were kind of getting lucky. If I'm being honest, the Hornets were blowing layups and stuff. Like, they should have lost by more against the Hornets, if I'm being honest. But they rallied together towards that 4th quarter. But in that 3rd quarter range, they were shooting like 19% from the 3-point land. It might have been worse. I was just checking at random. But it was bad this game. They ranked 4th most in 3-point attempts in the entire league, with 41 threes being shot a game. That is what has this league turned into. I'm not complaining. I love the league. but like, oh my gosh, 41 shots from 3 are being shot a game. And they're shooting 39% from 3, which isn't actually that bad. But it's really just the consistency with this team from the 3-point line. Like, don't get me wrong, they can shoot that 3-point shot very well. Like, they'll hit like 6 in a row on you, make you call a timeout, and you look, you're down 20 or something. But then they'll have nights like these where they're 19% from the 3-point line and they're down 20 against a team that's trying to get a nice lottery pick. Like, it's that kind of consistency with this team. They go games shooting 26% from the 3-point line to 51% the next, shooting 47% one night, shooting 30% the next, 42% one game, the next day shooting 25%. And I just listed out their last 6 games in the 3-point percentage. Those percentages you can go back to check. Now, that was in the order too. That was in the exact order. They went from these good shooting percentage to bad. And that is the type of consistency. It's just, they are so unpredictable and most importantly, very, very unreliable. And don't even get me started with their defense that we all saw being pretty bad since the Kyrie trade. But it's still pretty hard to watch. They have the 8th worst defensive rating since the All-Star break and are second to last in the league in blocks per game and 3rd last to steals per game, and they're also 3rd to last in rebounds per game and are number 1 in worst offensive rebounding. Now those are pretty basic stats. Like, obviously blocks per game isn't what determines if you're a good defender or a good defensive team or not. So let's get into these advanced stats. Let's see if they'll prove me wrong and see if this Mavericks team is a good defense or just as bad as we all think. They give up the 2nd best field goal percentage in the entire league, which is awful for them. I say second best for the opponents, not for them. They're not blocking up or anything. They give up the 4th best percentage within 6 feet from the basket, giving up 48% from that range. That close. They just have no sort of interior presence offensively and especially defensively. Christian Wood might get a block or 2. He might be the only person getting blocks on the entire team. Maxi Kleber might get 1, but like, come on, like Christian Wood, Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, do those sound like defensive presences for you, like for your team that you want to have as your center to, you know, be your last line of defense? Like, no, not at all. And the craziest part is that they give up the number 1 best 2-point percentage in the entire league. They literally have the worst 2-point defense in the entire league. Yeah, they might clamp up 3-point shots. They might not let you get those 3-point shots off very cleanly, but let you step in a little inches into the arc, you're getting a bucket on this team. And by the way, all these stats are since All-Star break, since I didn't want to do the entire season because of how much the roster has changed with DFS and Dinwiddie leaving, and really just the fact that Kyrie Irving trade. That's the main reason why. But all these stats are since All-Star break. Now let's go to the clutchness really quick. This has kind of been something that's more unexpected for this team, because at least the defense, we didn't really think this team was going to be a good defensive team anymore. Well, they are actually pretty bad defense even before the Kyrie trade, and the fact that they traded their like only good defensive player, we predicted it to get worse, and it did. Their clutchness though has actually been pretty bad as well. The Mavericks are tied for the most losses in games that go into clutch time with 5 losses. Since All-Star break, by the way. This is all since All-Star break. Like, if it's not since All-Star break, I'll let you know. Just keep in mind everything since All-Star break. But this team just cannot close out games with players such as Luka and Kyrie Irving, literally some of the most clutch individual players we've seen. They also have the 11th worst offensive rating in clutch time and are tied for the 5th worst effective field goal percentage in clutch time. This team is just like so weird. Like, we see these clutch players such as Luka, Kyrie, and they don't close out games somehow. Even in their first game, I believe it was their first game together when it went to clutch time, they had a last possession where it was out of a timeout and they're like passing the ball to each other, not knowing who's going to take the final shot, and they throw up a bad shot and lose the game. Like, it's stuff like that where it's like, what? Like, these two players are like the most some of the most talented players we've seen, some of the most clutch players we've seen, and they don't even know what to do come clutch time anymore. Like, what happened? Now that we've gotten all these awful stats out the way, we can actually look at what all these awful stats actually mean for this team, what this awful play means for this team, and let's look into what can happen in their future. The thing about this team is, for one, this team had high expectations going into the season, at least for me. Like, I had this team being one of the top 4 teams in the entire West. Let go where my prediction went. That's why predictions, don't always trust them. But like the Mavericks, in my opinion, I had high expectations for them. And I wouldn't say they disappointed me, but they definitely didn't exceed them either. I'm talking about earlier on into the season, before the Kyrie Irving trade. They were pretty good still, like not too horrible, but they weren't like incredible either. They definitely weren't where I thought they were going to be, but they didn't disappoint me to the fact where I am now. But they went out and got Kyrie Irving. The buzz was at an all-time high for this team. Everyone's talking about them. Are they championship contenders, or did they just get worse because of their defense that just left and went to Brooklyn with DFS? A lot of people were split. People thought this team could be championship contenders with Kyrie, Luka. Those are offensive juggernaut of players. But then people, like I said, thought they were going to be awful defensively. I was kind of in the middle. I thought this team could definitely be an offensive juggernaut, but defensively, I don't know. I thought they could have outshot people a lot of the times, which unfortunately for them hasn't really happened too much. But even the people that were thinking this team was going to be a pretty bad defensive team and didn't think they were going to be contenders because of the Kyrie Irving trade, I don't even think if you go back in time and ask them, where do you think they'd be? I don't think they're going to say 11th seed out of the play-in. That's how incredibly disappointing this is to see for the Dallas Mavericks. And this is all with just 2 weeks left of regular season ball. Like, I don't think they're going to miss the play-in. If they miss the play-in, oh my gosh, like Dallas might fall apart. But Mark Cuban, you might have to sell the team if that happens. But I don't think they're going to miss the play-in. That would be crazy. But I do think the fact that they even got here is just so disappointing. And not only for the fans, but for players like Kyrie Irving, this has to be disappointing. And when you look at the fact that he's on his last year of his deal, this team does not make me sit here and think, yeah, I think Kyrie Irving wants to play here for a long time. I think he really loves it here. And it has nothing to do with the city of Dallas, nothing to do with the fans or anything. It's just the fact that the team and maybe how the coaching is, or front office, or anything like that. It doesn't seem like Kyrie Irving wants to be here. It's not like the fact that he's like saying stuff, like subliminally saying like something's up, but it just doesn't seem like this is a team that he thinks he can win on. And with the entire league wanting Kyrie Irving this free agency, especially with how weak the free agency class is this offseason, he's going to be a hot commodity. Like, a lot of teams are going to want him. He's definitely going to be getting a lot of calls from everyone. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And Dallas, I don't know if they have anything to convince him to come back. And let's say Kyrie does leave. Let's say he goes to whatever team, LA. A lot of people saying LA. Even though apparently the Lakers don't even want him. Apparently they want to keep D'Lo or something. That's fair. But let's say he just leaves, goes wherever. I believe if this happens, does Luka want to be here anymore? Like, does Luka really want to be on a team that just traded Kyrie Irving, or not traded, let Kyrie Irving walk, traded DFS and Dinwiddie, let Brunson walk previously, let Porzingis go a couple years back, and that never worked. Does he want to be here when nothing has worked and he's entering his prime of his career? In my opinion, I don't think he would want to be here, especially with the fact that this free agency class isn't that good, so I don't think they're going to sign it. Are they going to get Chris Middleton? I don't know. If they get Chris Middleton, I guess Luka might stay or something. I don't think they're championship contenders if they get Chris Middleton. But yeah, what are they going to do? Sign Chris Middleton or something? This free agency is not that good. And if they lose Kyrie, they're going to be stuck with Luka, and Christian Wood is probably going to be gone too, if I'm being honest. I didn't mention him yet. But Christian Wood, he's definitely saying some subliminal things. I don't think he wants to be here at all. In Dallas. So who's the second best player going to be? Tim Hardaway Jr.? Like Maxi Kleber? Like what? Reggie Bullock? Like what are the Mavericks offering Luka that makes him want to stay right now, especially if Kyrie Irving leaves? Christian Wood is most likely gone. Now, a possibility I do see happening. I don't think Kyrie Irving is 100% out the door right now. I do think he is definitely not looking good for them like he's going to stay, but I don't think it's 100%. because we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, just the slightest, even though they're really, you know, pushing my buttons with how this team is being orchestrated and everything. It's very frustrating to watch. We still have to say Kyrie Irving and Luka have never had an offseason together as teammates. Kyrie was traded here mid-season. Let's just say Kyrie is like, let's give this team a chance. Let me sign my extension 2 years or something. If it doesn't work, I'll request a trade next offseason, or maybe even before the trade deadline next season. Let's say that happens, and Luka stays. They get an offseason under their belt, and they might be good next year. You never know with what an offseason can do for teammates or just really a team in general. So that is a possibility to look at. It might be a little optimistic for Mavericks fans, but it isn't completely impossible in my opinion. The future of the Mavericks really just depends on Kyrie Irving and his decision if he wants to stay or not, on what his mindset is right now. And if I'm keeping it a buck, if my franchise is leaning and depending on Kyrie Irving's decision, I'm not too sure if I'm real excited about that. Kyrie Irving does have a reputation of being very unpredictable. Whether you agree or disagree with what he does off the court, he is pretty unpredictable. And for the Mavericks, I don't know if they want him really being the deciding factor for a lot of things to go down in the next couple of years of their franchise. After this loss for the Mavericks, the fans are booing them at one point. Luka's out here saying some kind of subliminal stuff in the interview I showed you in the beginning, where he's kind of saying it's not really fun anymore, not just because of basketball. Like, that's when your ears perk up, like, what's going on? But the Dallas Mavericks are in trouble, to say the very least, and a lot of this is in the balance in the next couple of weeks, whether how they finish the regular season and how they perform in the playoffs, if they even get there. Some other news around the league before I wrap up the video. Ja Morant has officially came back. He was out because, you know, everything going on outside the court, and he's came back, led the Memphis Grizzlies to a win coming off the bench. Pretty cool to see him coming back. Karl-Anthony Towns is also back from Minnesota, trying to make a push to make that 6th seed, avoid the play-in completely. Nice to see Karl-Anthony Towns out there hit a few clutch shots for Minnesota as well in that game to finish off with the win in his return. Kevin Durant is also set to return March 29th. I don't know who that's against, but of course, really nice to see Kevin Durant back. See how this Phoenix Suns can wrap up the regular season and prepare for the playoffs, especially with Kevin Durant, who hasn't played too much with them, get, you know, meshed a little bit more come playoff time, before playoff time. No real news on Braun yet. Rumors were that he was going to come back around last 3 games of the regular season, but he tweeted basically saying that was false. Don't really trust the sources that are going on, like Shams or something. But maybe it'll be sooner or later. I don't really know. That tweet didn't really tell us anything. But he is back on basketball practices, I think, or basketball workouts or something. But the Lakers are definitely hoping for his return to be sooner rather than later. I'm sitting at the A seed as I'm recording this video. Unfortunately for the other LA team though, Paul George did go down with a nasty looking hyperextension in his right leg, I believe. I don't know what leg it was, but he limped off, needed help getting off the court. It is predicted he's going to be out for pretty decent amount of time. Unfortunate news for basketball fans in general. You never want to see anyone get hurt, but Paul George, especially what he went through, hate to see him go down once again. I saw a report that it'd be very optimistic to even say that he's going to come back for the first round of the playoffs for the Clippers. I hope that's not true or anything. Obviously, don't believe every rumor on the internet. But if that is true, that is really tough for not only the Clippers, but Paul George. So prayers up for Paul George. Hope he can come back as soon as possible, 100% healthy. And that's kind of it. It was kind of just an injury update right there, that kind of portion of the video. But it's whatever. If y'all like the video, hit the like button down below, subscribe button, notification bell, so y'all can be notified as soon as I upload. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out.